Good morning, good morning. Hey, I got a friend who says that in every family there are two kinds of people. We'll see if this rings true for your home. He says in every family there are people who lose things, and then there are people who help them find what they lose. Is this true of you? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Like I'm a finder in my home because my children are people who lose things. Like I hear it on a regular basis. Daddy, I need help finding my favorite pencil. Like what, we have like a dozen pencils, but it's my favorite one. Daddy, I can't find the cat. Well, the cat doesn't want to be found. Like what do you want me to do, you know? Daddy, I can't find my bow and arrow. What? They're like bigger than you. Like how is this possible? You know, it actually got so bad in my home, I've worked out this system with my kids where we have these invisible finding tokens. They get one a month, all right? So every month, only once, they can come to me and say, Daddy, I'm turning in my finding token. I need you to help me find my whatever it is. That's kind of how it works in my home. So how many of you are finders? Raise your hand if you're a finder in your home. I can kind of see you, so I see the hands. You can look around at everybody who's sitting next to you with their hands down and just say, y'all are a bunch of losers, okay? I'm just kidding. Don't do that. That's so mean. So mean. We're going to look at a story together today, and it's a story about lost things being found. Same as before, this one's in Luke 15. It's actually a collection of 3 stories. We're going to look at 2 of them this morning, and then y'all are going to unpack the third one later on tonight. Same as before, you can turn to Luke 15 if you got your Bibles, or if you can tune in on your apps if you've got the Bible app on there, or you can just listen. I'm going to read you the stories. Luke chapter 15, verses 1 through 10. Let's see what Jesus has to say. It says, Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, This man welcomes sinners and eats with them. Even if you don't know what tax collectors and Pharisees are, you kind of get the picture. He's hanging out with the wrong kind of people, according to the religious leaders. And the religious leaders are saying, what is wrong with him? He is hanging out with the wrong kind of people. You get the picture. Anyway, then it says in verse 3, Then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, Rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep. I tell you that in the same way there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. Next story. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and she loses one of them. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, Rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin. In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Now, I promised you, and I'm going to keep my promise, I promise you that I will always be honest with you. I will always tell you the truth as best I can. So the truth is, I'm a little bit nervous about our time together today. I'm a little bit concerned about how you're going to receive me. And not really me, but what I'm saying. I'm not really so worried about what you think of me or whether you like me. I mean, I'd probably rather you not hate me, but it's not really even about that. It's really, I'm nervous about our ability to have a good moment of communication, for you to kind of receive what it is I think God has called me to say. I hope you hear me. I've got bad news. That's the issue. I've got bad news that won't be super fun to hear, that you probably, at least in some cases, don't want to hear, and it's going to be easier for you to write me off or to ignore me. Like there are a lot of reasons that you might want to not pay attention to me, on top of the fact that I just called half of you losers. You know what I mean? Like let's just acknowledge the facts. I'm a 40-year-old white male in a position of spiritual power. You know what I'm saying? Like, our culture tells you not to listen to someone like me because someone like me is probably just manipulating you for my own purposes so that I can maintain my power. And at some level, we get that. Like, there are plenty of people in positions like this, whatever their like race or gender or age, plenty of people who abuse spiritual power in order to keep people under control. So, like, I get it if there's a little bit of skepticism there. And even more personally, kind of like we talked about yesterday, y'all don't know me yet. Like, I hope you can feel that I care for you, but I don't expect all of you to already believe that I do. Like, you just can't be sure, right? Add to all this the fact that we live in a world where telling hard truths to one another has been recast as hate speech. So if I tell you something that I think you need to hear but you don't want to hear, then you've been trained to interpret that as me being anti-you or wanting to deny your worth or wanting to deny your existence. And so I get it. It's tricky because, like, saying hard things is hard. Actually reminds me of a time when my daughter was 2. Her name is Claire. I mean, again, she's 12 now, and I know she's not perfect, but I kind of think she's perfect. Anyway, when she was 2, she was adorable, and so she wore cloth diapers at the time, which means it was like a really bulky diaper, and she had this like pink cover around it. So she just had this pink bubble butt, and she'd walk around all over the place. It was so adorable. Anyway, one time I remember she's just chilling in with her little pink diaper, and I'm sitting in a chair, and she's kind of in between me and the wall. And she walks over to the wall, and she just kind of stares at it. So I'm back here. She's at the wall looking at it, and then she just raises her hand up to the wall. Now, this is pre-Stranger Things. Like, now I'd be really freaked out. Like, what are you doing, child? You know? But she just reaches her hand up to the wall, and the reason why, maybe you know this, is because there's an electrical outlet on the wall. And so she lifts her hand up, and I said, Claire, and she put her hand down. And she just kind of stood there, you know, staring up at the wall. And I'm over there. I wasn't like quite that harsh. It was like, Claire, like that. And then she stood there for a few seconds, and then she reached her hand up again. And I said, Claire, and she put her hand down. This happened like 2 or 3 times, and then eventually she turned around. So now I'm turning the scene around. So she's reaching up against the wall, and she put it down, and then she turned around, and she just started waddling over to me with her pink bubble butt, you know, really super happy because she's about to come get a hug. And then she gets really close to me, probably like 3 or 4 feet away from me, and she stops. She's like 6 feet from the wall, so it's not even close. But she stops, and she stares straight at me, doesn't lose eye contact, and then she just does this. Like, reaches up to the wall like she's just testing it, you know. And I said, Claire, no. And she put her hand down, came and gave me a hug. And you guys get this moment. Like, in no world would it be appropriate for me to walk up to my 2-year-old daughter and to say, listen, babe, here's the deal. You got to do you. Now, I don't really think putting your hand in the electrical outlet is the best thing for you. But if that's what your insides are telling you is best, who am I to stand in the way? You know what I'm saying? Like, no, that's terrible parenting. I mean, this happened. Next time she put her hand up to the outlet, I flicked her on the hand, said she'd know I was serious, and then I turned around and gave her a huge hug so she'd know that she was loved. That's good parenting. That's telling a hard truth that you know the child needs to hear. Now, y'all aren't children. I recognize that. You're not. So why am I even saying all this? Well, again, I'm saying this because I have to say something negative. I have to say something negative tonight, or today, this morning. Really, this parable tells us 2 things about you and 1 thing about God. The thing about God is pretty clear. He's a finder. That's what this story says about God. You? Well, this is sort of a good news and a bad news situation. Sometimes it's best to start with the bad. We'll actually start with the good today. Here's the first thing I think you need to see. Might be easy to miss. First thing you need to see, and you need to hear, and you need to hear it not at an ear level or just at a mind level, but a heart level. First thing this story tells you about you is that you are wanted. Wanted. I want you to notice the details in the story. Maybe if you've not read it before, remember the first one, there's a shepherd, has 100 sheep, loses one, leaves the 99 to go find the one, finds the one, throws a party. Next story, there's a woman, has 10 silver coins, loses one, searches high and low to find the one, finds the one, throws a party. Both of the stories end in the party. So like start at the end of the story and look at the celebration. What would you celebrate finding? The truth is, like, I'm a finder compared to my kids, but I also kind of have a tendency to lose things. They kind of come by this a little bit naturally. I'm the kind of person who I could lose my books, or I could lose my keys, or I could lose my phone. And have you ever lost your phone? Whoo, man, that's a scary feeling. Like, you realize how much you need that stupid little black box when you lose that stupid little black box, you know? I'm like, what am I supposed to do without this thing? Or if you lose your keys and you need to go somewhere. Or y'all are still relatively young, like most of you live in your parents' home. You remember when you were younger, did you ever get lost? Like at the park or the store or the fair? Like that's a terrifying feeling, you know? And whenever you lose something that's really valuable to you, when you find it, you celebrate. And how much you celebrate reveals how much you wanted what you lost. Can I say that again? Like how much you celebrate when you find something reveals how much you wanted what you lost. So both of these stories end in a party, and that means something for you. But even before the celebration, I want you to back up and look at the search. So again, picture the story. Woman loses coins, 1 coin. What does she do? She notices. She notices, and then she searches. Shepherd loses sheep, 1 out of 100. What does he do? First of all, he notices. You ever try to keep your eyes on 100 moving animals at once? He notices, and he searches. Now, some things we lose and we never notice. Like if I gave you $100 for every pen or pencil that you lost in elementary school, y'all would probably be rolling, you know? But like you don't even know how many that is because most of the time you didn't really notice. You just went and got another one from your mom or your teacher or whatever it is. Other things we lose and we notice, but we don't really care that much. Like you ever lose a couple of dimes? And by dime, I mean the little silver metal thing. Anyway, so probably should use a nickel. But you ever lose a dime and you're like, whatever, it's just 10 cents. It's not going to buy me a pack of gum, so I'll be fine without it. Like what you need to see from these stories is that you're not the kind of thing that God loses and then doesn't notice. And you're not the kind of thing that God loses and then notices but doesn't search for. You're not the kind of thing he loses and says, no big deal. Like, I'm just as happy without it. No, God is a searcher. He doesn't throw people away. Someone once said, we live in a throwaway culture. A culture that doesn't hesitate to toss things aside and then replace it. Something gets broken or lost or just goes out of style. No big deal. It's easy. We'll just replace it. Just toss it. I can't find my iPad cord. I'll just go on Amazon and buy a new one. Go on Amazon, buy a new one. We're conditioned to consume, to throw away, and to replace. Every year, sometimes multiple times a year, there's a new phone that comes out, and it looks a lot like the one we had last year or the one we have now, but it's got more things, and promising that it can do things with the camera and with the connectivity, and we must have new phone. Consume, throw away, replace. And a throwaway culture too often treats people in the same way. A throwaway culture exploits people, uses people, doesn't even see people. And once they get what they want from you, they just sort of cast you aside, throw you away. Maybe that's happened to you, man. This is no light thing. I don't say this lightly. Maybe that's your friendship story. Maybe you're the one who you don't even like the word tag along because you recognize that kind of describes how you feel. It doesn't feel like your friends want you around. Maybe this has been a past experience for you. Maybe it's a present reality. Maybe this is your family. Man, I even hate talking about this because I can only imagine how painful this is for you if this is what you're going home to. A world where nobody even sees you. And maybe it's kind of cool that you have the freedom to do whatever you want, but in certain moments you step back and you say, I kind of wish somebody would even at least notice and acknowledge what I'm doing, even if it means they told me no. You need to understand from these stories that that's not how the kingdom of God works. God has never made a single throwaway person. God is a searcher. God is a finder. You are wanted. You are wanted. You need to hear this, y'all. I'm not trying to be preacher guy, but you need to hear this. You are wanted. Now, I would love to stop here and just walk off the stage and leave you with this deeply encouraging idea, this truth that God wants you near him, but that would be like going up to Claire and saying, hey, love you, babe, have fun, and walking away. I'm not going to do that because that's not where this story takes us. Yes, you are wanted, number one, but number two, you are lost. Now, I promise not to get up here and just tell you everything I think, but instead to ask questions to make you think for yourself, even this early in the morning. So let's be consistent and turn this around. Are you lost? That's the question I want you to think about. Are you lost? It's kind of hard to get lost these days. You know what I'm saying? I know we're kind of dealing with bad reception, but even sometimes with bad reception, if I'm lost, I'm just going to pull up one of my 3 maps apps and see if it can find where I am and get me to where I want to go, And if I lose this thing so that I don't know how to let it tell me where to go with that sweet Australian voice that my kids like hearing so much, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get my wife's phone and I'm going to search Find My Friends so that I can find my phone. It's hard to lose things, We've gotten really good at not misplacing our stuff. But I wonder if we're as good at not misplacing ourselves. And if you doubt the importance of the question, are you lost? I want you to think with me for a moment. What if you had a terminal illness that had a cure, like an illness that was going to end your life, that had a cure and you didn't know it? Wouldn't you want to know? Wouldn't you want to find out? If you knew this was a possibility, wouldn't you do everything you could to find out so that you could fix the problem? You and I will never value being searched for unless you and I believe that we are lost. dangerously lost. I believe that Jesus is God searching for you, but I don't expect you to care unless you know you need to be found. So ask the question. Let's make it personal. Am I dangerously lost? To be lost is to be misplaced. To be out of place, like you're supposed to be somewhere, but you're not there. We kind of get this. And we also get that it's not just about place, you know? Like if I lose my keys, it's not just these keys belong in my pocket. No, it's that these keys actually serve a purpose. And if I don't have them, how am I going to get into my house? How am I going to start my car? So to lose my keys is a problem because they actually do something that I need. Or if you lose your child or you lose your parent, you know what I'm saying? It's really not so much like about being in a particular place, but being with a person. It doesn't matter if my child is in aisle 12. It's not like my child belongs in aisle 12. No, my child belongs by my side. That's what it means to be lost. To be misplaced from the person with whom I was made to do life. And we have this vague inner sense of, man, I just feel lost. Do you ever say that? I just feel lost. Like, what are we saying when we say that we feel that? We're saying, I'm not where I want to be. I'm not who I want to be. I'm not who I want to be physically or emotionally or relationally or spiritually. I'm not who I should be. Do you feel this? Like, I know you do sometimes. I know you do. Even if you're not able to admit it, even to yourself, I know you do. This is why we hide. This is why we hide the uglier truths about us, even from those we say we trust. This is why we pretend. Y'all, just a few days before I came out here, I was meeting with a young guy, and I had become aware of some of the unfortunate things he'd been doing in a relationship, and I wanted him to tell me the truth. And so I sat down with him, and I said to him, like, I want you to tell me, like, honestly, like, how bad things are. And he started to tell me some things, and I knew he was lying. And he said, we've done this and this, but, you know, that's it. Oh, what about this? Oh, yeah, that. What about this? Oh, yeah, that. What about this? Oh, yeah, that. So you're lying to me. Yeah. Why? Because I was ashamed. That's what he said. Because I know I'm not who I should be, and I don't want you to know. Is that you? And look, maybe part of the brokenness in your life is not your fault. Like, let's acknowledge that sometimes that's the case. Like, some of the pain and hardship and foolishness that you've fallen into, at least partially, is a result of the context in which you live. I think that's why he told the story of the coin the way he did, Jesus. Like, the coin didn't actually do anything to become lost. It was lost because someone else didn't care for it properly. Sometimes that's reality. But you know what is also true? The other story, that some of it is on you. Some of why you are where you are is because of the decisions that you've made. Think about the sheep story. The sheep was lost because the sheep stopped following the shepherd's voice. No, some who wander are lost. Are you? Now, I want to circle back around to the good news. If the parable tells the truth about the coin, then it also tells the truth about the woman. If the parable tells the truth about the sheep, then it also tells the truth about the shepherd. If the parable tells the truth about you, then it also tells the truth about him. I don't know, maybe I'm asking the wrong question. Maybe the question today is not, are you lost? Maybe the question is, will you let yourself be found?